Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay, and we can chant this prayer, especially for Bhagavad-gita. Sartyam Arjuna Syado Kurvam Gita Amritam Dado Lokatrayopakaraya Tasmai Krishnatmane Namaha. Sarvalakshmi Mataji, can you read the translation?
Okay. To begin with, I offer my obeisances unto Lord Krishna, who accepted the position of the chariot driver of Arjuna, just to distribute his ambrosia of the Gita for the benefit of all the three worlds.
Thank you.
Gita Mahatmya.
Continue enjoying the ambrosia of the Gita, the nectar of the Gita. So in chapter 1, Arjuna saw all his relatives and friends, decided he doesn't want to fight, and he gave some reasons to Krishna why he doesn't want to fight. Do you remember the reasons, or some of the reasons why Arjuna said he doesn't want to fight?
Destruction of family tradition.
Yeah, very good.
Simple reaction.
Very good.
Can't enjoy
Compassion.
without the family.
Yeah,
Relatives all
enjoy.
day.
How am I going to enjoy if there is no one to enjoy with again?
Now the family becomes involved in irreligion.
Yeah, so Paramananda Prabhu said, family tradition is destroyed, so that's kind of the same thing. There's a fourth one, which is compassion. He didn't want them to suffer. Sita Vallabh Mataji, do you remember the fifth one?
I think he was saying that unwanted progeny, after once everybody's died, there will be only women, so they won't have any protection.
Yes, yeah. So that's also kind of within the destruction of family tradition in that.
Indecision.
Indecision. So after all this, he can't decide, should I fight, should I not fight? So those are the 5 things. And then in chapter 2, starting from chapter 2, Krishna refutes all these arguments. So far we are in the first one where Krishna is refuting the compassion argument. Do you remember what we said? What Krishna is telling Arjuna?
The body dies, but the soul does not.
Exactly. So the body is going to die anyway, whether you kill it now or the next day, it's temporary. The soul can never be killed. So this is the argument against this compassion, that real compassion is not for the body but for the soul. So that's where we are just now. And then we'll continue with text 18. Antavantai me deha nityasyukta sharirina anashino prameyasya tasmad yudyasva bharata. Leon?
The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharat.
Thank you. So this indestructible, eternal, this was already mentioned before, but repetition is necessary. We don't usually remember if we only hear something once. And then he says immeasurable, which is very interesting because in one of the previous purports, there was quite a definite measurement given that it's 1/10,000th of the tip of a human hair. But, number one, every hair is a little different, so it's not such an exact measurement. Plus, it's not really a measurement in the sense that the spirit is not material. You can't measure it with any kind of material measurement. It's more just to give us an idea that it's very small. in a material sense, but still it pervades the whole body. It gives life to the whole body. It's the soul doesn't have material dimensions, basically. So that's what it means by immeasurable. Now, so far, Krishna has been giving Arjuna knowledge about the body is temporary, the soul is eternal, matter is temporary, spirit is eternal. This is the first time he's telling him to put it in practice. He says, therefore fight. So this is a very important principle, that we don't just learn, we don't just memorize things and study for the sake of studying, but we should put this knowledge into practice. So for Arjuna, putting the knowledge into practice was fighting. So therefore fight. So the soul can't be killed, the body can't be saved, no reason to lament. So fight. Yainam vitti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam uboto na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate. Vaishnava Prabhu?
Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For all self slays, not nor in slain.
So it's a very poetic English.
Very complicated.
Yeah, very complicated. It basically means that the soul can't be killed, and also the soul is not the killer. So the soul can't be killed. That's, I guess, a bit easier to understand, especially after these last few verses where it explained that the soul is eternal, fire can't destroy it, no material elements, nothing can destroy it. But the soul is not the killer. The self slays not, means the self doesn't kill, the soul doesn't kill, nor is slain. It's also not killed. Sorry. So the second one, that it's not killed, and the first one, that it's not a killer. To understand this, we need to kind of understand that the soul gives life to the body, but the soul itself is not the actor in one sense. As we read through the Bhagavad-gita, we'll find some verses where Krishna is saying that the soul is not the doer, and in some verses he says that the soul is the doer, because both are true in some ways. The soul desires to do something, but the doing is actually done by the body. So let's say the soul desires to cut down a tree. So the desire is there, and therefore the hand grabs the axe, and it's the axe that actually cuts down the tree. So the hand, the axe, these are instruments. So in this sense, the soul is not the doer, because it's not actually doing the cutting of the tree. From another perspective, the soul is the doer, because the soul desires to cut down the tree. The soul initiates this action. And also there is a third doer. So far we spoke about the soul who desires, the material nature, the arm, the axe, everything else. That's the instrumental cause, you see, that actually does the cutting. There's a third one, which is the super soul, who permits, who sanctions. So we may desire to do certain things, but unless the super soul allows us to do it, we can't do it. It's quite a difficult thing to understand, that the soul is completely spiritual. The body is completely material. So there would be no interface between the two. So how can something completely spiritual act on something completely material? So that's why there is the super soul, Krishna's form as the Paramatma, and that allows the soul to act through the body, because both the soul and the body, both spirit and matter, are the Lord's energies. So for the super soul, they're both his energies, even though they are two completely different things. This is quite technical and philosophical, and as we go through Bhagavad-gita, especially chapter 3, chapter 5, then chapter 18, we'll learn more about, doership. But that's why it says that the self slays not. So the soul doesn't kill, because the soul is not doing anything material, and of course it's also not a killer. So it's not killed and it's not a killer. Now, having said this verse doesn't encourage whimsically hurting other people, injuring other people, killing, saying, the soul can't be killed, I'm not the killer, so I can do whatever I want. That's not the point here. But then sometimes, for the sake of protecting others, violence is necessary. There is this Vedic injunction, Mahimsya Sarva Bhutani, never commit violence to anyone. So that's the basic principle, but in some special cases, a terrorist is attacking other people, you can't just say, well, I shouldn't be aggressive, I shouldn't be violent, because by you not being violent, then you're allowing this person to hurt so many other people. Okay? Next verse is very Upanishadic in tone. Not this, not this, not this. You'll see. Najayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita vanabhuya ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Helene?
For the soul, there is neither birth nor death, any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He's unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. I can't move you because it's my iPad. He, something, body is slain.
Is not slain when the body is slain.
Body is slain. Excuse me, it doesn't move. I'm used to the iPad. Thank you.
So he's not killed when the body is killed. So when I said it's Upanishadic, so the Upanishads are scriptures that mainly directed at Gyanis, people who like studying, intellectual exercises, kind of intellectually caught up people. So it doesn't say very straightforwardly what it wants to say. It says it in a roundabout way because this is what these Gyanis enjoy. So that's why it says na jayate, na mriyate, na bhuya. That's the tone. So there's no birth, nor no death, doesn't come into being, will not come into being. It's unborn, eternal, ever existing. So this is the level where the Upanishads are. Gita is also Gita Upanishad. We'll study Shri Isha Upanishad, also an Upanishad. The purpose of these Upanishads is to move the mind from matter to spirit. So that's the level of the Gyanis. Purify our minds of material perspective, material conception. Then in the purport, Srila Prabhupada speaks about the soul, the spirit soul. So even if we can't see the soul, we still see its effects. So when I look at Elaine, I can't see her soul, but the fact that she's smiling, she's her eyes are moving, I know that there is a spirit soul inside her, therefore she can move. So we see the symptoms of the soul. People are speaking, moving, breathing. All these are symptoms of consciousness, symptoms of moving. And Prabhupada gives the example, sometimes we don't see the sun when the sky is very cloudy, but it's still a little bit light. So from that we know that the sun is there. So in the same way, we don't see the soul, but we see the effects of the soul, which is light. So if sometimes we do not find the sun in the sky owing to clouds or for some other reason, but the light of the sun is always there. And we are convinced that it's there, so that's for its daytime. Similarly, since there is some consciousness in all bodies, whether man or animal, we can understand the presence of the soul. So even in an animal, does the same things as a human being. So we can't say that animals don't have souls. Sorry. Okay, and then even if one doesn't find the soul within the heart, where he's situated, because it's subtle, you can't see it with our material eyes, one can still understand the presence of the soul simply by the presence of consciousness. So the sun is there even if you can't see it. Consciousness, the soul is there, even a human, animal is there. Okay, Prabhupada also speaks in the purport about the Vibhu Atma and the Anu Atma. So Vibhu means great, so the great soul or the super soul, and Anu means little, small. So Anu Atma is the little soul or us. So the Vibhu Atma and Anu Atma. Vibhu Atma refers to the super soul, Ishvara or Krishna, and Anu Atma, the minute particle, refers to the individual soul, the Jiva. Qualitatively, they're both the same, but one is really big, really great, and one is really small. Okay, and then one more point Prabhupada makes in the purport is that when the soul is there in the body undergoes 6 changes. It takes birth, it grows, it produces byproducts, so takes birth, grows, has some children, stays for some time, grows old, and dies. Of course, not everybody has children, but this is the kind of main general idea. So this is what happens to the body when the soul is there. Whereas the soul itself doesn't change at all. So the body undergoes these changes, the soul doesn't change at all. That's the difference between the body and the soul. The soul just exists eternally. It doesn't take birth, doesn't die, it just exists. Any points or questions so far?
Mataji, I had a question about
I think you muted yourself now somehow.
I wondered where to find the 6 opulences of Bhagavan in Sanskrit. I looked for it and I couldn't find it.
After the class, I send it to you. If I don't send it within an hour, then send me a reminder.
Thank you.
Okay. Send you the verse. Okay. Let's see the next verse. Veda vinasinam nityam yainam ajamavyayam katam sa purusha parta kam katayati hantikam. Sarva Lakshmi Mataji.
Oh, Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill?
Okay. So if you know that the soul is eternal, you can't kill anyone because you can't kill the person. You can't kill who they actually are. The body is already dead, so you can't kill the body. You can't kill the soul because it's eternal. So that refers to Arjuna, or cause anyone to kill. So this refers to Krishna because Krishna is seemingly inciting Arjuna to kill. So Krishna is in the Bhagavad-gita telling Arjuna to fight, to kill others. But if you understand that the soul is indestructible, eternal, can't be changed, then you're not really causing anyone to kill. You're not really inciting anyone to kill. All Krishna is doing is encouraging Arjuna to do his duty, do his dharma. But again, this verse shouldn't be used to promote indiscriminate violence. In this world, there is avoidable pain and unavoidable pain. So the unavoidable pain of getting old, getting ill, dying, it's there. But we shouldn't cause more pain either to ourselves or to others. So that's the idea. And then Prabhupada explains that some violence is necessary. So he gives the example of a judge who awards capital punishment for a murderer. You know, he himself doesn't become a murderer by that because he's following the law. Also, there are some other examples like police, they have to use violence for protecting others. Even surgeon, if you go to the hospital and you have surgery, the doctor goes up to you with a knife and basically stabs you in the stomach, cuts you up. Now, if it was anyone else, on the street, that would be definitely violence, but a doctor is doing it to cure you. So for a doctor to refuse to treat someone, for the police to refuse to use violence to protect others, that would be violence because they're not doing their dharma. Is this understandable? So
Could I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Sorry. I mean, I think I know how I would respond, but I'm just kind of curious how to tease it out. If we say that, this war is justified, this killing is justified, there's certain times someone who's committing a jihad, like a holy war, they're, essentially arguing the same thing according to a different holy book. But is it simply because they are not really following shastric, like dharmic law, because they're just indiscriminately killing everyone and anyone? Or, I mean, I don't know that much about, what a jihad consists of, but I just imagine that they're not factoring in who's getting injured or killed. Is that it, or is there something else I'm sort of missing?
No, that's it basically, and it's quite interesting you bring this up. This is going to be the homework.
Oh, okay.
When is violence justified? Why did Krishna, who's all-loving, incite Arjuna to war? Is terrorism in the name of religion appropriate or inappropriate? So it's a very, very,
Okay.
very relevant question.
Then you don't have to address it then, if you don't want.
So everybody will need to write their own homework, but just some pointers. In Bhagavad-gita, it speaks about mode of ignorance, action in the mode of ignorance. So that's something to look at. And obviously, everybody will say that my violence is justified. But here we have Krishna himself telling Arjuna to do something that's very different from a random person deciding that this is how I understand the Quran or the Bhagavad-gita and start killing others. But this is going to happen in any religion, not just with this particular thing, but with other things as well, that people take statements from a holy book and use it to support their own agenda. It's not just with violence, it's with anything. Even within Krishna consciousness, within ISKCON, I've heard the most weird and wonderful things. And then they quote Bhagavad-gita to support it because they took it out of context. They don't understand what it actually is about. And then it can mean anything. There's a verse that's coming up quite soon. When your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of illusion, you become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that you will hear. So I heard quite a senior devotee explaining that this means that when you are an advanced devotee, you don't need to listen to anyone. But because he doesn't understand the context that Krishna is talking about karma kanda, and that's what you can kind of give up when your intelligence has passed, then it can be used as anything. So this is what sometimes happens, but it's going to be quite an interesting thing to think about and discuss. As well as the Bhagavan, I might put up a few other references you can look at when you're writing this homework. I don't want to give all the answers, but I'd like you to read up on it and then come to your own conclusions and write it down. That way knowledge goes much deeper than when you're just hearing it. Is this okay, Sita Sundari? Or? Okay. It was a very good question. Okay. Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya navani grinati naroparani tata sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samgyati navani dehi. Megambari Mataji? Hitu Prabhu?
As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones.
Thank you. So we don't wear the same clothes all our life, even usually wear it one day and then we at least put it in the wash. So in the same way, getting new clothes is not a time for lamentation. We're usually quite happy. So in the same way, getting a new body can be a time for rejoicing. Bhishma had an old Drona, they had old bodies, now they get a new one. Again, it's not promoting that you should kill old people so they can get a new body. So don't misunderstand this. It's very important. But it's a metaphor that helps, or a simile that helps us understand the things more clearly. And again, this is something Krishna uses, this analogy or this simile, when we are preaching, when we are trying to explain Krishna consciousness to others. It's very helpful to use these kind of similes, analogies, so people can relate to things. So you can use this cloth thing, but you can use other ones as well. You know, sometimes I use gulab jamuns or all sorts of other things. This is a good practice, and you can see Krishna himself is also doing it. So it's not just giving philosophy, but sometimes philosophy, and then how I can understand that philosophy based on my life experience. Okay. Now, when we get a new body, just like when we get new clothes, what kind of body we get depends on our desire and what we deserve. Just like when we go clothes shopping, if we have lots of money, then we go to a fancy clothes shop. If we don't have so much money, then we go to a pant shop. You can probably don't have them so much anymore, but somewhere really, really cheap. So what we want and how much money we have, that determines what kind of clothes we're going to have. And the same with the new body. What are our desires, and how much piety, how much good karma that we have, that we can pay for it. Okay, so depending on the desire and what we deserve. Okay, and then knowing that the end of the body is not the end of everything, it's just the end of this particular outfit, this particular clothes, then it's less painful, both for ourselves preparing for death and for our loved ones. So Bhishma, Drona, they lived a virtuous life, so their new body will be good after giving up their old and worn out body. Okay, and then Prabhupada in the purport, he also quotes this analogy of the two birds sitting on the tree. This is something that happens a few times. So in the Mundaka Upanishad and the Shvetashvara Upanishad, they compare the soul and the super soul to two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. One of the birds, the individual soul, is eating the fruit of the tree, and the other bird, Krishna, is simply watching his friend. Of these two birds, although they are same in quality, one is captivated by the fruits, and the other is just witnessing the activities. So these two birds sitting on the same tree, one is eating the fruit, meaning he wants to enjoy the material world, and the other one is just witnessing, watching him, seeing what he's doing. He's not interested in these fruits, but the super soul is the witness of all our activities, and then he gives us what we desire and what we deserve. And then when we finally can turn away from the fruit and turn towards our friend. We'll hear in a later chapter that's when the mind becomes calm, then we start hearing the super soul. Okay. Let's see the next one. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kadayantyapo, na shoshyati marutaha. Semi?
Oh, sorry, I'm already on. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind.
Thank you. So this is further reassuring Arjuna that the soul can't be destroyed by anything. So any kind of weapon, fire, water, wind, none of these elements can hurt the soul in any way. So there are these 5 gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. The first 4 are kind of, we see ether is very subtle, so we can just perceive it by the way sound travels through it. But none of these weapons, Prabhupada says all kinds of weapons, swords, flame weapons, rain weapons, tornado weapons. We don't hear of them so much now, but they used them in the Vedic times. So none of these can destroy the body. Sorry, none of them can destroy the soul. They may hurt the body, but the body is already dead anyway. Another point here is that modern science, I'm sure you remember from school, it's called elemental or atomic science of matter. So you have the periodic table with hydrogen, oxygen, lithium, beryllium, magnesium, natrium, all these different kind of atoms or elements. But the Vedic science deals with the elements in the sense that there is earth, water, air, fire, ether. So it's just a different way of looking at the same thing. Okay. Okay, so these verses further kind of tell Arjuna that try to look at it from a spiritual perspective. Don't get caught up in this material compassion, because that's just compassion for the body. The body is already dead. Try to see it from a spiritual perspective. Acitodnyamadhayoyam aklejoshosya evacha nitya sarvagatasthano rachaloyam sanatana. Gunachuda Mataji?
This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble, and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same.
Okay, did you also have a question or something you wanted to?
It doesn't matter anymore.
You sure?
Yes, fine.
Okay. So this verse is kind of continuing that it's unbreakable, insoluble, so you can't kind of dissolve it in water, you can't break it. We already had that it's no cut up in pieces, so it's unbreakable. It can't be burned by fire, it can't be dried by wind or air. So it continues the same theme from the last verse. And it says it's present everywhere, but it doesn't mean that one soul is pervading everywhere. That would be like the Mayavad explanation, that it's all one. It means that there are souls everywhere. So the soul being present everywhere means that there are souls everywhere. And then we already had unchangeable, the body undergoes changes, the spirit soul doesn't. Immovable. So immovable means that no material force can move the soul. Even at the time of death, when the soul leaves the body, and if it was a sinful person, then the Yamadutas kind of, you could say, take the soul to hell, and then he undergoes all this suffering. But the Yamadutas can't actually grab the soul to take it to hell. What happens is the Yamadutas take the subtle body, mind, intelligence, false ego, out of the body, and take the subtle body, and the soul is so much identifying with the subtle body, so attached to it, that it just follows it. I think Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, Gauranga Prabhu, they gave a really, I thought, a very good example, makes it very easy to understand. So you can imagine it's just somebody sitting in his living room watching the television and really absorbed in the program, really absorbed in the show. So absorbed that when somebody breaks into his house, he doesn't notice. And so absorbed that when somebody breaks into his house, grabs the telly and starts walking out of his living room with the telly, the person is just carries on watching the telly and walks out with the robber. So that's what happens to the soul as well, that when the Yamadutas take the subtle body out of the body, the soul is so attached to and so much identifying with the subtle body that it just follows the Yamadutas. So this is how the Yamadutas take the soul. But otherwise, no material force, no material condition could move or change the soul. Avyaktoyam achintyoyam avikaryoyam uchyate tasmadevam viditvainam nanushachitum arhasi. Sita Vallabha Mataji?
It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body.
Thank you. So, in many ways, you might feel that this is repetition. It's kind of Krishna saying the same thing, but as he's saying the same thing, he's kind of repeating it so we remember it, but also it kind of, the knowledge goes deeper and deeper. We'll also find similar in chapter 3, it's like a circular, but each circle goes deeper, the way Krishna explains things. Now, when Krishna says that it's invisible, it means that it can't be seen by the eyes, but it also refers to all the other senses. So we can't perceive the soul with our eyes, we can't hear it with our ears, we can't smell it with our nose, so it refers to all the other knowledge acquiring senses. We can't perceive the soul. The soul is inconceivable, means we can't understand the soul with our mind. So we can't perceive the soul with our knowledge acquiring senses, we can't understand the soul with our mind, and the soul is also immutable, meaning it can't be changed. So all our other senses, the hands, the legs, the working senses, they also can't affect the soul in any way. So this invisible, inconceivable, immutable refers to the fact that we can't perceive, we can't understand, we can't change the soul with anything material. The material senses are not the right instruments for understanding or seeing, perceiving the soul. To some extent, we can understand the soul by seeing its symptoms, but we can't actually understand it. Now, rather than this discouraging us, we should encourage us with a sense of adventure. I thought I was the body, I thought I was destined to die, but actually there is something much, much better. I'm destined for eternal happiness. So this is a much more exciting, reassuring and happy future than if we think that we are just a body and there is no soul. And to actually attain happiness, we do need to understand that we are the soul, because materially it's not going to happen. We may get little bits of pleasure from all the different kinds of gulab jamuns we are trying to eat, but that's just bits of pleasure, that's not actual happiness. So to actually get happiness, then we need to understand that we are spirit soul. Okay, and then this phrase, this nanu sachitum arhasi, do not lament. There is no point lamenting. A wise person doesn't lament. So this is a recurring phrase in these verses. Because remember, in these verses, Krishna is defeating Arjuna's compassion argument. So he keeps saying, don't lament. A wise person doesn't lament for this. Don't feel sorry about this. So that's why it keeps coming back. Okay. Atachainam nityajatam nityam vamanya simritam tatapi tvam mahabaho nainam shochitum arhasi. So again you see nainam shochitum arhasi. Don't lament. Megambari Mataji? I don't know if...
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Sorry, do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. There's some sound. If, however, you think that so, just yeah. Sorry, I'm really sorry. If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So far Krishna was explaining from the Vedic perspective. Soul is eternal, body is temporary, matter is impermanent, spirit is permanent. But now he says, okay, you might not believe in the Vedas, you might not be religious, you might not accept the existence of the soul. But even then, there is no reason to lament. You know, these atheistic philosophies, they were also around even thousands of years ago, but they weren't as prominent. So now Krishna is speaking from this atheistic perspective. So if you think that consciousness is just a product of combination of certain chemicals or elements, this is what a lot of modern scientists say, that at a certain point of combination of carbon and nitrogen and oxygen, all these elements, they somehow combined and a lightning hit it, and with the electrical current somehow we became conscious beings. Of course it's not true, but that's their idea. But he says, even if that's what you believe, then still there is no reason to lament. Prabhupada says nobody laments the loss of a bulk of chemicals. He says no one laments the loss of a certain bulk of chemicals and stops discharging his prescribed duty. So if you lose some nitrogen atoms, so what? Even in modern warfare, people use tons and tons of chemicals to kill other people, to kind of destroy in their minds other chemicals, but there is no reason to lament. That's one thing. And the other thing is, if you yourself is also not a soul, just a body, then your emotions and you feeling sorry, that's just some electrical currents going around in your brain. So again, that's not really any reason to lament. So this materialistic idea, atheistic idea, completely takes away any meaning to emotions, compassion. So no reason to lament. Now, having said it, it's not that science in itself is wrong, but using science to try to explain the meaning of life, that's wrong. So science is very good at explaining how the world works, but science can't explain why, or what's the meaning, or what's the purpose. Okay, so that's why science can never replace religion, because they have different purposes. So in your home, you might have a washing machine and a Hoover. So the washing machine has the purpose of cleaning your clothes, The hoover is supposed to clean your carpet. You can't replace the washing machine with a hoover, or you can't replace the hoover with a washing machine because they have different purposes. In the same way, science is good for certain things. Religion is good for something else, so you can't replace religion by science. So science explains how the world works, but religion helps us understand the why questions. Why are we here? What is my purpose? Why am I suffering? How can I get out of the suffering? Leon? Or Gunachuda Mataji?
In like Vedic times, did they not have science that could prove like the soul's existence?
As far as I know, I think one of the purpose says that the existence of the soul cannot be proven scientifically. So you can see the symptoms of the soul, but it can't be proven by scientific experiments. That's all I've read about it. I don't know about Vedic times, what kind of sciences they had.
So science is just like completely material.
Yeah. You can have more subtle, like science that deals not just with the gross elements like earth, water, fire, these kind of things, or the elemental table that I showed before, periodic table, but more subtle, the mind, the intelligence. You can have science dealing with that, but this material science can't relate to the soul. It's just something completely different.
Thank you.
Okay. So basically this verse says, whether you believe in the existence of the soul or whether you don't believe in the existence of the soul, there is no reason to lament. So this defeats this compassion argument, and it also in many ways defeats the fear of sinful reactions argument. Because if there is no rebirth, then you're not going to get any sinful reactions, so you don't need to worry about creating sinful reactions. Okay. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityu dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmad apariharyarte natvam shuchitum arhasi. Sita Sundari Mataji?
One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament.
Thank you. So, Krishna is telling Arjuna, not fighting will not stop the Kaurava's death. So, even if you don't do your duty and don't fight, the Kauravas will still die. So, you're not stopping them, not stopping their death. Plus, by not fighting, you would incur sinful reactions. So in chapter 1, Arjuna was worried that if I fight, I kill all my relatives, I will get sinful reactions. Here Krishna is starting to tell him, actually, by not fighting, that's what's going to get you sinful reactions, because then you don't do your duty. You're a kshatriya, you're supposed to do your dharma, your duty. If you don't fight, that will create sinful reactions for you. So for you, not fighting is sinful, and fighting is not sinful. Again, this kind of the fact that the body is temporary and one who has taken birth is sure to die, it doesn't support senseless violence. Prabhupada says, this cycle of birth and death doesn't, however, support unnecessary murder, slaughter, and war. But at the same time, violence and war are inevitable factors in human society for keeping law and order. Okay? And then next verse. Vyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata avyaktani dananyeva tatraka paridevana. Paramananda Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation?
Thank you. So again, Krishna is continuing this Nanu Shochitam Arhasi theme. There is no need for lamentation. So everything that you see around us, in the beginning it's unmanifested, then it's manifested, and then it crumbles and disappears again. There is this very famous poem about Ozymandias, this great, powerful king who was there thousands of years ago, but then his power, his kingdom, everything is broken up, becomes dust. Prabhupada in the purport speaks about, a skyscraper wasn't there 200 years ago, now it's there. In 200 years' time, it will crumble to dust. So knowing this, and knowing the inevitability of this, means that we shouldn't lament about things, we shouldn't get too excited about this. It's better to focus on a higher reality. So material things come and go, they're ups and downs. Just accept it and focus on a higher reality. So Krishna is encouraging Arjuna not to let these inevitable material changes stop him from doing his duty. And by doing his duty, he can attain the highest and lasting or permanent happiness. So looking for happiness somewhere where everything is impermanent, everything is going to change, is a very self-defeating endeavor. So rather just live your life the most simple way you can and look for happiness somewhere where it's eternal, where you're not going to lose it. So basically, whether you believe in the soul, you don't believe in the soul, doesn't matter. There is no need for lamentation. And these last few verses, they kind of described other philosophies other than Krishna consciousness or personal Hinduism. And then there are verses relating to that kind of help us understand it and defeat it. So Mayavada, we spoke last class. This Mayavad philosophy is that ultimately everything is one, individuality is just an illusion, and then part of Brahman is covered by Maya, that fragment, the covered fragment thinks that he's an individual. But when it's uncovered, it's liberated, and then it returns to the impersonal oneness. So this is Mayavad philosophy, this is not our philosophy. And then in these verses 212 and 223, the verses themselves and the purports, when you read them, Prabhupada defeats this Mayavad philosophy. We did this last week mostly. So this week, a little bit of Buddhism or Voidism, that the soul only exists while embodied. So at a certain combination of material elements, the soul is there, and after it attains liberation, nirvana, then it becomes nothing. So in Mayavada, after liberation, everything becomes one. In Buddhism, after liberation, everything becomes nothing. So then Prabhupada speaks about this philosophy in the purport to 226. And then atheism, there is no soul at all. It's just a combination, like these symptoms of life just appear at a certain stage of chemical combination. Then again, there's no reason to lament because chemical combinations can't lament, and there is no point lamenting for chemical combinations. So you can study these at your leisure. Okay. Let's see the next verse. Ascharyavat pashyati kashchidenam, ascharyavat vadati tataiva chanya, ascharyavat chainam anyashinoti, shutvapyenam vedanaka chaiva kaschit. Vaishnava Prabhu?
Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all.
Thank you. So Burijan Prabhu calls this verse the amazing verse. There is so much amazement in this verse. In one sense, it doesn't really fit with Arjuna's mood of grief and sadness and sorrow. But at the same time, Krishna is saying that once you understand the soul, you'll be amazed. It's a little bit like when somebody tells a joke and there is a gap between you hearing the joke and laughing because it takes you a few seconds to actually understand the joke. So it's a similar thing. Once you understand that you are the soul and everybody else is also the soul, then you'll be amazed and you become free from all the grief and sadness and suffering that you've been going through before. Now, this verse says that some look on the soul as amazing, meaning some people actually see the soul. Some describe him as amazing, meaning some people speak about the soul and how amazing the soul is. Some hear about him, some hear these people speaking about the soul. And some people, even after hearing about the soul, don't understand how amazing the soul is. So this is all these amazement related to the soul. These are kind of descending levels of perception. So some people can actually see the soul. Some people speak about him. Some people hear about him. And some people don't even hear about, or even after hearing, don't understand. And then Baladev Vidyabhushan, when he explains this verse, he applies the amazing not just to the looking and the hearing and the seeing, but also to the people. So some amazing people see the soul. Some amazing people describe the soul. Some amazing people hear about the soul. And amazingly, some people, even after hearing about the soul, don't understand the soul. Or you can also say that seeing the soul is amazing, describing the soul is amazing, like that. Okay. Dehi nityam avadyoyam dehi sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shochitum arhasi. So again we have natvam shochitum arhasi. Don't lament. Sami?
O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being.
Thank you. So this is the last verse in this section that speaks about the eternality of the soul, the temporality of the body, defeating Arjuna's compassion argument. But this knowledge of the soul is not to encourage us to be indifferent, uncaring, callous, or lethargic and helpless. But with this knowledge of the soul, we should act. We should follow our dharma, we should follow our duty and achieve ultimate happiness, which is only possible on the spiritual soul platform. So we shouldn't be uncaring and callous towards other people's suffering, even our own suffering, thinking that it's just the mind. We are the soul, we don't suffer. But at the same time, we shouldn't let these feelings of empathy, sympathy stop us from doing the right thing. Who feels brave enough to summarize Krishna's arguments against Arjuna's compassion argument? Sita Sundari, go on.
I can start a little bit because the body is temporary and the soul is eternal. There's no reason to lament the killing of the body because we're going to lose it anyway. And even if we are just made up of chemicals, we wouldn't lament anyway because there's nothing really to lament in that instance. Let's see. Might be all I have right now.
No, that's perfect. That was really, really
Okay.
good. Really good. Well done. Well done.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so this is, I hope, quite clear for everyone. This was the first argument against this compassion reason. The next one deals with the enjoyment. So rather than Arjuna says, how am I going to enjoy if all my relatives are killed? Then Krishna is telling Arjuna, actually, by doing your duty, you can enjoy. So this will be the first application of the knowledge that Krishna just gave Arjuna. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. So in this first part, the soul is eternal, compassion for the temporary body is ignorant and useless. So this counters Arjuna's compassion argument. This is Atma Jnana, or knowledge of the soul. This is what Krishna gave to Arjuna now. The next section applies this Atma Jnana, so it actually uses it. Okay, now you know that you are the soul, you are not the body. Use it, fight. By doing your prescribed duties, you will enjoy. Either in this life you will enjoy because you get a kingdom, or if you die in the battle, you go to heaven because you've been doing your duty and you'll enjoy there. So rather than lose, that's what Arjuna was thinking. If I fight, I lose. If I don't fight, I lose. It's a win-win. If you fight, if you do your duty, you either die and go to heaven and enjoy, or you win the kingdom and enjoy. So it becomes a win-win. This is the first application of Atma Jnana. Karma Kanda, we spoke about it a little bit in Nectar of Instruction. Anyone remembers what Karma Kanda refers to?
A portion of the Vedas, it's like the rituals that help us basically achieve good results.
Yeah, so Karma Kandis, or people who follow Karma Kanda, they are people who want to enjoy this world, but they do it religiously. So they follow these Vedas, they follow the rituals in the hope of enjoying. So there's no, you could say, transcendental goal. It's not that, I'm trying to develop love of God. It's none of that. But I'm doing the rituals given by God so I can enjoy. I do some puja so I can get a nice house, and my son passes his exams and I can get a nice car. So this is Karma Kanda. This is very good in the sense that they follow scriptures, they follow the words of God, but this is not the, you could say, highest level. This is, you could say, the first step in the right direction. So this is Karma Kanda. And Krishna in these verses speaks on the level of Karma Kanda. This is very important to understand, because in the next section it will seem like that Krishna is kind of countering his own arguments from the previous verses, but that's because he's speaking from a higher level. So sometimes to step to a higher level, you need to give up the lower. Okay, but now he's going to speak on the Karma Kanda level. Swadharmam api chavikshya navikampitum arhasi dharmadhi yudacheyonyat kshatriyasya navidyate. Sarva Lakshmi Mataji?
Considering your considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and so there is no need for hesitation.
Thank you. So this is a different theme, like I said. It's not so much about spiritual knowledge, it's about material reward. So now Arjuna understands that he is the soul, but he still needs to live in this world. So to live in this world, we need to follow our swadharma. We need to follow our duties. There are many kinds of, but two main kinds of dharma. One is how to live in this world. You may be a kshatriya, brahmana, you're a parent, you're a son, you're a daughter, you're a sibling. And all of these, you could say, identities bring duties with them that we need to follow. So that's one. And the other one is our Sanatan Dharma, our eternal Dharma, which is relating to Krishna, that we are Krishna's servant. Which is, this Sanatan Dharma is the same for everyone. Everybody is Krishna's servant. Everybody should love and serve Krishna. But this Varnashram Dharma, or this kind of Swadharma, that's different for different people. So Kshatriya Dharma is very different from Brahmana Dharma, or Shudra Dharma, or Vaishya Dharma, and sometimes it can be opposing. We saw that Kshatriyas, they're supposed to fight, Brahmanas are supposed to be very tolerant and peaceful. If a Kshatriya tries to be too peaceful and tolerant, then he's not doing his duty. If a Brahmana becomes violent, he's not doing his duty. So different people have different duties. Nice example is in a hospital. Everybody's getting treatment. So when you go to a hospital, there are all these different wards, and everybody's getting treatment in all the different wards. But the treatment in, let's say, in the surgical department is going to be very different from the orthopedic department or the physical therapy department. You know, the place where they deal with people's stomachs is going to be different from the cardiology where they deal with the heart. So everybody's getting treated, but the treatments are different. The idea is that all the patients should get better. But how are they going to make them better? You know, if somebody is diabetic, then they need to watch very carefully what they eat, when they eat, how they eat. If somebody has some other illness, then they need to give them lots of food so the body can recover. So sometimes they may be opposing kinds of treatments as well. So in the same way, in Varnashram, Brahmanas, Brahmacharis, Grihastas, Vaishyas, they have different duties, but the overall idea is that one should become purified and elevated. That's the goal of Varnashram, and also that there is a peaceful, cooperating society. Now at this point, we'll speak about this more, but at this point I want to have a little discussion. There are two seemingly opposing arguments. One is, as ISKCON devotees, we are transcendental to Varnashram. Does everyone know what Varnashram is? No, yes? Okay. Semi doesn't. Okay. So Varnashram means that people have duties. You know what Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, what these things are, yeah? Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi. So everybody has a life stage duty, Brahmacharis, Grihasthas, Vanaprasthas, Sannyasis, and everybody also has a kind of occupational duty as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And everyone should follow these duties. So this is what Varnashram Dharma means. Okay? And sometimes it's said that as ISKCON devotees, we are transcendental to Varnashram. And then other people say, as ISKCON devotees, we should follow our duties according to our own nature in Varnashram. Let's say in Varnashram. Okay? So first, let's have some arguments for the first point, that we are transcendental to Varnashram because we are devotees. Anyone wants to support this argument? Okay, let's have Leon and then Elaine. And then either Vaishnava Prabhu or Sita Balaji.
I'm not saying I necessarily completely agree with this point, but if you were following what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying, then you'd say that of anyone of any class or creed or completely anyone should just chant the holy name. So there's no means of Varnashram because everyone can be liberated from any platform.
So no need for Varnashram, we all just chant the holy name and we can all become liberated. Okay, very good. Then we have Elaine.
In principle, if you are born in I'm talking now not about this life stage, but about Brahmana, Kshatriya, and so forth. You're a soul, you can be born in a family of Kshatriya, but you are Brahmana, actually, so you can become a Brahmana. So as being a devotee. And you can be a Shudra, but and the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly somebody who's Brahmana, he really actually very good with managing the money of ISKCON, for instance. So
So you're saying that we are transcendental because we can do the duties of any varna.
Depends on how we progress in our devotion.
Okay. Now, progressing in our devotion is not the same as progressing in the varnashram system. So if somebody becomes more elevated in devotion, it doesn't necessarily make him from a kshatriya into a brahmana.
Yes, but for instance, the fact that you do initiation and second initiation, then you become a brahmana, no?
Mm-hmm.
So you are becoming
Yeah,
a
you have
brahmana in
brahmanic
some sense.
qualities. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I don't know, Sita Vallabhi or Vaishnava Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. I think I have similar thoughts, and that is why, from my understanding, Srila Prabhupada was suggesting that a Brahman could be a meat eater and, could have bad habits. And a Kshatriya could be, or a Shudra could be chanting and could be, progressing and achieving higher stages and liberations.
Okay, so it's not the birth, but it's more what they're doing.
Karma.
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada gives the example of like a doctor having a son, and his son is not automatically a doctor, has to study for it and become a doctor. So as ISKCON devotees, I think we are following the process of becoming more purified, more towards the varnashram. So I feel that that's what Srila Prabhupada was explaining.
Yeah. Okay, very good arguments. I'm almost convinced. Anyone else?
Are they both kind of married in a way? Because obviously we have to exist in this material world. We have duties, as you've explained, but by doing those duties and being Krishna conscious while we're doing those duties, does that make us then transcendental? For example, say you have to nurse your mum, you're devoted to your mum, but you can marry that with Radha and you're serving Radha via your mum, if that makes sense. Can you marry your duties with this higher platform?
Certainly, but let's not jump ahead because otherwise there is no point to the discussion. Okay, so I'm almost convinced by the first arguments. Let's hear arguments for the second one. That even as ISKCON devotees, we still need to follow our varnashram duties and act according to our own nature. Okay, Vaishnav Prabhu or Sita Vallabhi Mataji?
Again, as Srila Prabhupada said, serve in the way that you are best trained or qualified to do. So if I am a qualified accountant, I should serve ISKCON from that point of view. Or if I am IT technician, then I should help with the IT department. If I am expert cook, then I should serve as a cook, etc., etc. So again, one should follow according to our own nature.
Very good. So use your nature to serve Krishna. Very good. Any other thoughts? Yeah, Sita Sundari Mataji?
I think so. Can you hear me? Because my husband is building something. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. That our spa dharma is meant to support our sanatana dharma, that it's easier for us to become the servants that we're intended to be when we're happy and doing something that we're good at. So it would be risky if we try to do something different. And maybe the reason we are able to do our sanatana dharma so well in the material world is because we have aligned it with our material dharma. And also because I just think of the verse in the Bhagavad-gita where, we should continue to do our dharma because common men will follow our example. And so if I'm good at something, my proclivities are that I can do something well, that I would want to do that, continue to do that so that other people would be inspired by that as well.
Very good. Very good argument. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, so I'm very proud of you that you managed to argue both for and against, meaning you managed to argue for both sides, and that's because both are true in some ways. So being transcendental to Varnashram, like Leon said, we all chant Hare Krishna, that purifies us and elevates us all. That's really good. And then it's also true that if we have a certain nature, then we should use that in Krishna's service. So something that we are competent with, something that we are comfortable with, is best for us because we'll be most peaceful. And it's also best for society, both like ISKCON society and the wider society. Because if I'm good at something and I'm doing that in Krishna's service, in the devotee service, then it's going to be very good. Otherwise, I may be a very sincere devotee, and I'm very good at fixing cars, but if I try to be a manager, then it's going to be a tragedy, both for, everybody I'm trying to manage and myself, because I'm going to be so frustrated and bitter and resentful, because people are not like cars. If I just stick to fixing cars, then everybody will be happy. I'll be happy and satisfied. The cars will be happy. Everybody will be happy. If I try to do something else, then it can create a lot of problems. Of course, sometimes in an emergency, we need to do something else, but it's good to follow our own nature and offer that to Krishna, and not just have this blanket statement, because we are devotees, we are transcendental. Another point here to understand is this being transcendental to Varnashram as devotees refers to devotees who are actually transcendental. They are above the modes. It doesn't just refer that because you chanted 3 rounds, now you are transcendental. Okay, so it's important to understand it. It's not a blanket statement that all devotees are transcendental. We are all following a process that's transcendental, and when we become purified and elevated and liberated, then we become transcendental. But it's not that just by having a bead bag we become transcendental. Is this okay? Any?
May I just add something?
Yes, please.
I was just thinking about, sorry, I need to lower. Okay. I was also thinking about the Bhagavad-gita. So before Krishna left, he was telling Uddhava a lot of things. And one of the things was about the Varnashram system, that it's actually not the corrupt Varnashram system, but the one that Krishna was talking about, that is going to lead all the devotees of Krishna on the right path to him. So basically, if we are going to follow that, with all the things that some people, so about it's about indeed your inclination. So it's both things together. But eventually, the Varnashram system that he was talking about and telling Uddhava was the spiritual one, the best one, the one that the Brahmana is served by the Kshatriya and serves everybody else, and everybody serves everybody the right way to fulfill their Sanatana Dharma.
Thank you. Okay. Let's move on. Yadrichaya chopapannam svargadvaram pavritam sukhinakshatriya parta lapante yutham idrisham. Paramananda Prabhu.
O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets.
Thank you. So this section speaks about karma kanda. That's why heaven and enjoyment is emphasized so much. So Kshatriyas who die on a battlefield, Brahmanas who kind of offer sacrifices, even though they're using violence, because they are following their dharma, their duty, they become elevated by that. So the Kshatriyas, they didn't even have to go out, look for fighting opportunities. Look, Arjuna, it just came to you. You should be really happy. This is the best thing for a Kshatriya to do. Okay. And then Prabhupada says, for a Kshatriya to become non-violent on the battlefield is a philosophy of fools. Okay. So Kshatriyas shouldn't try to be non-violent. Of course, they're not indiscriminately killing everyone, but in certain situations. Atachatvam dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi tatasvadharmam kiritim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. Sarvalakshmi Mataji?
If, however, you do not perform religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter.
Okay, so here Krishna is starting to tell Arjuna, you're thinking that by fighting you will incur sinful reactions, but actually by not fighting you will certainly incur sins. So it's not just, he's in one sense not just talking about the enjoyment argument, but even the sinful reactions argument. He will speak more about that later on as well. Now, what's wrong with losing your reputation? What's wrong with infamy? In one sense, fame is material, it can create distraction and pride, but at the same time, remember that this is on a karma kanda, a little bit on a material level that Krishna is speaking. And Arjuna is a very powerful, very famous fighter. You know, he defeated even Lord Shiva, he got this Pashupatastra, he defeated so many great warriors. And then he needs to act according to this honorable position. So when somebody has a honorable position, high level of position, then you can't just get the respect and the honor, you also need to act accordingly. So you can't just have one without the other. So if you don't perform your religious duty, you will lose your reputation, you will lose your honor. So Kshatriyas are given a lot of honor, a lot of respect, but sometimes they have to perform some very difficult duties. Okay? Akirtim chapi putani katayishyanti tevayam sambhavitasya chakirtir maranadatirichyate. Hitu Prabhu?
People will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death.
Thank you. So again, as Vaishnavas, devotees, we are told that, you know, we shouldn't look for respect, honor, these are kind of false ego things. And this is very true. Lord Chaitanya says, be more humble than a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree. This is certainly true. But at the same time, here Krishna is engaging the power of honor to encourage honorable action. So Krishna is using this sense of pride or need for honor in a Krishna conscious way to engage it in devotional service. There is a difference between honor, pride, and arrogance. So pride can be positive or negative. It can be negative when somebody is proud, puffed up, we say, or arrogant. But pride can also be something positive, you know. We take pride in our city, or we pride ourselves in our service attitude. You know, even some companies, you know, it's a kind of matter of pride or reputation that they give really good service, and they prepare to even lose a little money to kind of maintain that reputation. So if it encourages us to act honorably, then this pride, this honor can be a positive thing. So now Krishna isn't speaking to Arjuna as a devotee as such, but more addressing his Kshatriya spirit. And even for non-Kshatriyas, we all have a need to be somewhat accepted, a sense of being appreciated, being welcome, being honored. Maybe not to the extent that Arjuna, but to some level. If we are in a company where we feel unwelcome, unappreciated, we don't like to stay around. And that's a totally human reaction. It's not that we have to purposefully torture ourselves in that way. Okay. And then we can also understand that if somebody's been in a respectable position, let's say somebody was a leader, manager, prime minister, then it's very, very difficult to just become an ordinary person later on. It's very rare that somebody's been a temple president and then they stop being a temple president and just become a ordinary, everyday Sankirtan devotee or start cleaning toilets or something like that, because once you've been in that high position, it's very difficult not to be in a high position, even for devotees. Okay, let's see if we can do one more quickly. Bhayadranadu paratam mamsyante tvam maharata yesham chatvam pahumato bhutvayasya silakhavam. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. So Arjuna may say that, okay, they think that I'm insignificant, but I actually gave up the fight out of a very honorable, very noble reason, that I didn't want to kill my relatives. I was prepared to give up the kingdom just so I don't have to kill my relatives. So that's my actual intention. So by actual honorable action or noble action is that I give up fighting. But then Krishna says, they're not going to know what your intention is. All they're going to see is that you were supposed to be a great fighter, but then now you just run away from the battlefield. So people don't see our intentions. They only perceive, their perception of us is shaped by what they see. So that's why we need to be very careful with how we act. We need to think about not just about our own motivations and intentions, but about how our actions will be perceived, how they could be maybe misinterpreted. And then if there is a danger of that, either don't do it or try to explain it immediately so there is no misunderstanding. And we all live in a society, whether it's the kind of Krishna conscious society or the wider society, so we can't just say that we don't care about what everybody thinks, because people's perceptions do matter. People will judge ISKCON, Krishna consciousness, our spiritual master, based on how we act. They won't necessarily see our intentions, our motivations, they see our actions. So we do need to kind of act honorably, because for people, their perception is their reality. So this is what Krishna is telling Arjuna, that all these great generals, Duryodhana, Karna, they're not going to think that you left the battlefield out of compassion. They're going to think that you became a coward. So then they will lose all respect for you. Okay. Any last points, questions? Okay. Then the homework. So in your own words, it's really important when you write an essay, don't just put in 15 quotes. It's really good to quote from Prabhupada's purports, but you can have 1 or 2 quotes, but otherwise try to explain it in your own words, paraphrase it, because that means that you actually understand it. So in your own words, with reference to verses, analogies, and statements from Prabhupada's purports, you can use these verses, you can also use other ones, I try to send them. Discuss the following 3 questions, so answer all 3. When is violence justified? Why did Krishna, who's all-loving, incite Arjuna to war? And is terrorism in the name of religion appropriate or inappropriate? Okay, this is the homework. Any questions regarding this? Gunachuda Mataji?
When you said don't just put the quotes down, were you referring to the first homework? Like people just putting the quotes down?
No. I wasn't referring to that. Sometimes it's a general.
Just in general, okay.
That sometimes devotees, very out of their affection for Prabhupada, when they write a 300-word essay, 260 words of those are kind of copy-pasted from purports. And they're quite often quite relevant sentences, But then I don't know if they understand. I don't know if they can explain it. All I see that they can copy paste. It's important that you read, you do your research, you put it in your own words and explain it, and then 1 or 2, 3 places you can have a short word-for-word quote in quotation marks to just support it. And then on the bottom you can have like, for the rest of the things you can have like in brackets, this is from purport to verse 241 or whatever. You can have that, but it should be in your own words, because if you can explain it in your own words, it means you understand it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and see you next Monday.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Ki Jai.
Jai.
Deva Sadhu Sangha Ki Jai.
Jai. Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.